We're back. This time we're taking a look at Marvel Legendary, the deck building game. This is one I've been putting off on buying a little while now, but they started coming out with some good expansions that I'm interested in, and finally broke down and bought myself a copy. Played it a few times. It plays very similar to Ascension, which I did a video on a long time ago. But we'll get right in and take a look. First thing on this box is massive, and it weighs a ton. So if you're getting this thing and having it shipped, it's a pretty hefty box. Tons of Marvel artwork included, which is awesome. I think the base box here comes with over 500 cards, which is part of the reason it's so heavy. First thing we have is our rule book, which is actually done up like a comic book, which is kind of neat. Does a great job with illustrations of explaining everything. Setup and teardowns, honestly, the biggest part of this game, because you get to customize it each time you play, which leads to pretty much limitless possibilities as far as replay value. This little chart here basically explains how you can tailor the deck to make things either easier or harder, depending on how you want to adjust the difficulty. And then there's a chart on the back here depending on the number of players that you're playing, how many villains and henchmen and things that you're going to be using, which also changes the game somewhat significantly. They also have this neat little section in the back for how to play solo, which is really cool. The board itself is pretty massive. I'm trying to get everything in there. My voice is probably a little off now, but you have your knockout section at the top here, which is where you're basically going to be putting all the heroes and villains who get destroyed during the game. You have your mastermind, which you get to choose which mastermind you want to use. The base set here comes with 4. You have your shield agents, which you can hire down here. The HQs, where you're going to have your available heroes that you can buy and add to your force. The city section in the middle is where your villains are going to start appearing from the deck over here. They're going to flip over onto this section and eventually push their way down. If they ever get past the bridge, they escape, and they go in the escape villain section. You have a scheme up there, which is your mastermind scheme he's trying to fulfill. If they ever meet the requirements on that, the villains win and the players lose. And then down here you have a hero deck, which you use to replenish the HQ for their heroes they can buy. And then the wounds and bystanders both have their own special abilities. They did an amazing job planning for future expansions with this game. And the box comes with this really nice tray, which fits, I think, almost all except for maybe one set of the current expansions. Depends on if you sleeve your cards or not. If you sleeve them, you're going to fit a little less in here, obviously. It comes with a huge stack of these dividers, which you can label to separate your cards out. And there's also custom labels available online that you can get to separate the cards and whatnot. And you can see I have them all labeled here. And you can label them. I label them by team on the sides, by characters over here. I have mine separated out to heroes over here, and villain stuff in the back over here, and my bystanders and whatnot in the middle. And these are all the starter decks. Everybody's going to start the game with the same basic cards. You have 8 shield agents, which have the 1 star, which is your buying power in this game. And then you have 4 shield troopers, which have 1 claw, which is your attack power in this game. You're going to be using the stars to buy new heroes and things to add to your deck. And you're going to be using the claws to do attack damage against the villains and henchmen. As for the villains and henchmen, there's lots of variety there because you can mix and match. So the first thing you're going to do is choose yourself one of the masterminds to fight against. And the base set here comes with Magneto, Loki, Red Skull, and Dr. Doom. Each one of the masterminds has 4 different tactics, and these are going to get shuffled up and put under the mastermind card. And these are things that they do throughout the game. Each one has a little section at the bottom here that explains what they're doing. The next thing you're going to do is choose one of the schemes. These are pretty much how the game plays out, and depending on the different masterminds you pick and the different schemes you pick, each time it's a completely different game. In the case of Portals to the Dark Dimensions here, you're going to mix 7 twists in. Each twist is a dark portal, and as they come up it explains what each one does. If all 7 come up, evil wins the game. There's twists and master strikes that get shuffled into the deck for the villains. There's your master strike. And there's a twist, and when these come up they do various things depending on the mastermind you've chosen and the game that you're playing. And then each mastermind is going to have a specific set of villains that go with them. In the case of Magneto, you're going to be using the Brotherhood and things like that. And then there's different squads of henchmen in the back, which are just filler that add in. The villains basically are your bigger heroes. Let's grab the Brotherhood here. They're your bigger supervillains: Sabretooth, Mystique, Juggernaut, the Blob. And then these get mixed in with whatever henchmen that you're going to use. Again, those you can randomize each game to be slightly different. And another aspect that's going to be in there are the bystanders, which are just going to be basic civilians in the city that the bad guys are going to be trying to capture and the good guys are trying to rescue. You get bonus points for rescuing them. Kind of interesting. Now the base set comes with 15 different heroes from various X-Men, Avengers, and a couple Independents, and of course Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. At the beginning of the game you're going to pick 5 of these and then mix their entire decks together to make the hero deck. This is where you're going to be building your force up from. This is what's going to be laid out on that HQ tile on the main thing. Different expansions add different new heroes. There's specific ones like the Guardians of the Galaxy have a box set that's just them. There's a Fantastic Four box set, which is hard to come by after that god-awful movie. And then there's complete new box sets like this. There's a Dark City one, which is very heavily X-Men themed. And there's a Secret Wars 1 and 2, which are out now, which have all sorts of various other things in them. And all sorts of other things to add more to them. But for now, these are the ones that you have. You pick 5 of these and mix them together. You can go a couple different routes. It makes the game more entertaining. You pick the characters you like that you want to play, or you can go with a theme, like take all X-Men or all Avengers. That way your cards will work well together. Like other deck building games, you get bonuses for having multiples of the same team. Take Iron Man for example here. This is Iron Man's deck. In the base set, every card has the same artwork, which some people say is boring. Other people say is good, because at the end of the game when you go to separate these back out and put them back in the box, it's much easier to find when they all have the same artwork, which I agree with. Some of the newer expansions, they started using different artwork for each character and each card, which makes the game look nicer, but at the same time, when you're trying to separate things out, it's a pain in the butt when every single card has different graphics and you actually have to read the names on every card as you're sorting out. Doesn't sound like much, but it does add a lot to the breakdown time after the game. So every card has a, well, not every card, but most cards have a team icon up here and a type. And then at the bottom you have your cost to buy if these were in the HQ. That's how much you'd have to spend to get them added into your force. Over here you have their attack value, or whatever they allow you to do. In this case he's a 3+. So you start with 3, and then because of his ability you get +1 attack for each other ones of those that you've played this turn. So the more heroes you play with that icon up here in the corner, he gets stronger. And there's lots of different things, so that's something to keep in mind when you're building up your deck. There's also ones, I don't know if he has any ones that get a bonus. But the various versions of each card allow you to do different things. That one's for attack value. This one lets you draw another card. Oh, what else do we have? He has a lot of the same thing in here. The repulsor raise card here has a different icon, in which case down here our ability is slightly different. So the idea is to build up as many claws as you can to fight off the villains and eventually the mastermind, while at the same time keeping Tony Stark doesn't have any way to buy, so he's all offensive. But well, the other option is to build up ways to build up stars so that you can buy bigger and better things. It's definitely an interesting game if you're into deck building games. This one's definitely worth checking out. If you're into Marvel, it's worth checking out. The biggest things I like about it are the fact that it's soloable, so you can actually play through a campaign by yourself. The sheer variety in combinations of decks that you can build make it a different game every time you play. Even without the expansions, there's countless ways you can play just the starter box here. And it's more of a co-op when you play. The base game itself, if you play it as a co-op where everybody's working together and nobody's really trying to go outright and win the thing, then the game is very easy. Future expansions add a lot more difficulty. There's even a villains only expansion which adds a lot of player versus player conflict on top of it. And when those come into play, then you start running into the where the bad guys win more often. But as far as the base set goes here, yeah, unless people are actually outright trying to win that goal of getting the most points, if you're just working together to beat the missions, it's relatively easy to do. And some people have complained about that, but it's a comic book based thing. The good guys you almost always win, so think about it from that respect. But definitely the future expansions, the Dark City and onto the Secret Invasion box sets, there is a lot more risk and a lot more chance of the heroes actually failing. Again, it's another one, if you're into that type of game, it's kind of fun. If you aren't much into deck building, you're probably not going to get too much out of this. You may still, as a Marvel fan, though, being able to customize the heroes that are available each game are kind of fun, and building up weird combos and teams. That's pretty much it for this one, though. If you want to see it in play, there's definitely lots of gameplay videos available on YouTube. You can check those out. And we'll see you in the next video.